threats, the recent proposal to establish a Coast Guard bill or a Coast Guard has sparked significant debate among security and policy experts. With the bill successfully passing its second reading in the upper chambers of the National Assembly, proponents argue that this new organization will enhance maritime safety, strengthen economic security, protect critical offshore installations, and improve search and rescue capabilities. However, critics have raised concerns about potential redundancy, inefficiency, and jurisdictional conflicts with the Nigerian Navy, as well as the financial burden it could impose on the already struggling economy. Let's talk this through by speaking with our guest who's joining us from Abuja studio. Is International Security Risk Consultant, Commodore Abimbola Ayuba. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast. First and foremost, I'd like to get
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd like to get your impression about the Coast Guard bill, which is now generating lots and lots of reactions. You know, there are some who are for and there are some who are against, but others are saying, if it is not broken, why fix it? Where do you stand?
Thank you very much. I want to join most Nigerians who are patriotic and who have the interest of this great nation at heart. And that at this time of our national development and weighing at the background of our economic challenges, I am of the opinion that this particular bill is being brought at a time when we cannot as a nation, and I repeat, we cannot as a nation create a force of a magnitude of a Coast Guard while there is an existing naval force whose one of its functions is policing. Territorial defense of Nigeria, maritime defense of Nigeria, and also with other additional functions. And speaking of the Nigerian Navy, that has existed even around 1957, played a very major role, both locally and internationally, and intervened even in ECOMOG and other places, and is still doing so. I do not see the urgency against the background of our economic challenges, how it becomes priority at this time to start mooting the idea of establishing a Coast Guard, which is a whole gamut of expenditures, training, logistics, facilities, purchasing of new vessels, which may take 5-10 years. I want to suggest that we make haste slowly, and of course, the constitutional rules given to the armed forces is very clear, and that, so long as that has not been abrogated, I do not see where the Coast Guard bill will succeed, except you want to say that there should no longer be a Navy. I've looked at some of the omnibus clauses in that bill. It virtually wants to take over the role of Nigerian Navy, who has done a lot over the years to ensure that our coast is safe from piracy, from smugglers, and the challenges of illegal bunkering are there and they are being addressed. So many agencies have been formed. Some functions have been outsourced, and over the years, the role of the Navy have been depopulated. Creation of NIMASA, for example, is one of it. NIMASA's role is very clear as far as the sea is concerned, based on the IMO requirements for safety of vessels within the harbors and approaches. NIMASA is there. We also have NIWA, Nigerian Land Waterways Authority. We have Marine Police. We have Customs Marine Unit. We have Immigration Marine Unit. So with all this taking a toll on the national economy, while we are trying to offload the burden funding or financing from governance, some people are also clamoring to put heavy weights on Nigeria and Nigerians. I think there is cause for caution.
Well, Commodore, you think that, with all you have said, clearly you're thinking that it's not important for us to have a Coast Guard created. But there are people who have said that the Navy has quite a lot to handle. And so taking that out will mean that we focus on its core mandate and core responsibility. And do you think actually that the Navy has a lot to handle, one, and do you think they are doing their bit to effectively protect our waterways?
Yes, let me tell you straight away. I believe that's Theophilus. I served in the Nigerian Navy for 33 and a half years, color service, out of which I have commanded vessels. I have participated in several operations. And I want to tell you that those who are saying this are totally, I must say, ignorant of the international requirements and international roles that have been given to navies worldwide. Navies worldwide have three basic roles. That is the policing role, where all this patrolling and all this involves on. You have the military role, and you also have the diplomatic role. So, ab initio at the establishment of Nigerian Navy, it was set up for policing, harbor defense. And because you cannot set up a force without looking at your threat profile, Nigeria over the years has been so lucky that we are peaceful neighbors. And we have not been contesting for fishing territories with our neighbors. We have not been having an invasion from foreign entities wanting to seize our territory. We have virtually, as a Nigerian Navy, what we've been doing is virtually policing and coastal naval functions. And that function is enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly Chapter 6, Section 217. And creating a Coast Guard is, to my mind, inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution. So it should be seen as ultra-biased, null and void. Now, there's a United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which have layered the maritime space. And that is from the continental shelf, where I can tell you what a continental shelf may look like if you go to a place like Bar Beach, or from the coastline. There are some underlying land elements that have been embedded or submerged in water. But they are land and projects sometimes kilometers into the sea. But they are part of the land, part of the nation. That's what they call the continental shelf. Then from there to 12 nautical miles is what we call the territorial sea. And beyond that, another 12 nautical miles, you have what they call the contiguous sea. In the contiguous seas, international shipping can go in, even warships of other nations can go in, provided they do what they call innocent passage. And beyond the 24 nautical miles now, if you add the territorial sea, 12 plus contiguous sea, 12, you will have what they call the exclusive economic zone, which measures from the continental shelf to 200 nautical miles. I think that should be equal to about 380 kilometers or thereabout to the open sea, which where Nigeria has exclusive rights to exploit the natural resources that are there and the ocean resources that are there. So I don't see why they say Navy is biting too much, because the vessels that we even have are designed for coastal patrol. And you must know that the Navy, through its naval dockyard and engineering exploits, have been able to build offshore patrol crafts I think there were in a series of 4 or 5 or 6 now that have been locally produced to enhance coastal patrol. What the people need to do is to understand that the naval force is very expensive to maintain. It is foreign exchange based, and because Nigeria is generally sea blind, Nigerians are sea blind. How many times do we even spend on the shoreline? Maybe on Easter Day, on one Saturday, people go to.
I want to understand that. I want to understand that when you say Nigerians are still blind. Sorry, Commodore. I want to understand. When you say
when
Nigerians
they say people are sea blind, if you go to other countries, even in West Africa, go to Togo here, go to Benin. By weekend, people troop to the beaches to relax, to catch fun. And in their numbers, in fact, it's like something people look forward to. Some do a lot of boating, some do swimming,
that I'm trying to
do fishing.
I'm wanting you to to clarify. You mean Nigerians are not aware to the opportunities, that these, coastal, probably shores, actually poses for Nigerians? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying that culturally, we are not given to using the sea for recreation and other purposes. We are not. And that's what internationally is referred to as being sea blind. It's a technical term. And why I'm saying this is that if people have been interested in using the sea, the shoreline for recreation, why do they build international hotels close to the sea? In Miami, Florida, for instance, even in Nigeria here, you see most of these 5-star hotels in Lagos are built along the shoreline and provide opportunity for people to have time out at the beaches. And that's a lot of source for foreign exchange. What we must be thinking is how to look at the deficiencies of the current Nigerian Navy and see how we can assist the Navy by funding the issues that surround whatever perceived inefficiencies that people are saying that they need a Coast Guard for. The Navy can be empowered. But I'm telling you that over the years, Nigerian Navy's role has been infringed upon by creation of so many other agencies that are doing either parallel duties or have taken over by way of acts of legislation, yet they turn around to the Navy to write MOU to help them to enforce perform their roles. NIMASA is one typical example. Thank you.
All right, so in all of this, now some experts have said that the creation of the Coast Guard is a recipe for anarchy. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. Anarchy, anarchy, and anarchy. When you want to talk about creation of a new force, it's a whole ball game. It's a whole ball game in the sense that, first of all, the Coast Guard will not exist in a vacuum. The Coast Guard cannot exist under a different command other than the command of the armed forces of Nigeria. If you take the U.S. Example, they have apart from the 3 main services, Army, Navy, they have Marine, and also they have the Coast Guard. And each one have its different roles to play, but you see, there's always a meeting point, there's a nexus. Anarchy in the sense that the vessels you want to buy, how long does it take to buy them? Ships are not something you buy in the market, they are there waiting for you, you have to build them. And when you order ships, that's what we call the lead time. A lead time might be between 3 to 5 years to construct one vessel. And that means a lot, puts a lot of toll on Nigeria's economy because we continue to pay in stages of development of these vessels. The other issue is which berthing facilities will the new Coast Guard be using? Are they going to go into Navy facilities to start berthing their vessels, or go to MPA? That needs spaces to berth vessels to make the much desired foreign exchange for Nigeria? Or are they going to be anchoring in the middle of the channels, thereby impeding navigation. And how long does it take to train? I just told you that I spent 33.5 years of actual service, that excluding my cadets training years, to work in this Nigerian Navy. It takes minimum of 4 to 5 years to prepare an officer to play important roles on board naval vessels. And that's talking about command responsibility, watchkeeping duties, that to fulfill international requirements. The Navy is not a local force, it's an international force with a lot of international collaborations, MOUs. Remember that there's a Gulf of Guinea Commission that also, and the Navy also, Nigerian Navy also has partnerships with other countries that come here annually to exercise with us and train with us. Right. So it's not just something you can just do in one day and then put so much burden on the nation. At this time, I think it is
Commodore Ayuba,
required.
Rather than looking at it from, creating redundancy, why don't we also look at it from the fact that the bill that is proposed, envisions a civilian-led agency that will complement the Nigeria's military mandate? So do you not think that this civilian oversight will introduce efficiencies or enhance even accountability in maritime law enforcement?
The tragedy of all these arguments is that you are talking about civilian agency. What is the role of NIMASA? NIMASA is a civilian outfit. It came out of a Nigerian Maritime Authority. And that already is in existence. So when you remove some of Nigerian Navy's function and give to NIMASA, NIMASA is doing that job. Are we saying that NIMASA is not effective? Are we saying that the Nigerian Land Waterways Authority is not effective? This is a civilian organization. MPA is there in the harbor, maintaining the harbor, dredging, and maintaining of buoys, which some of the responsibility has even been removed from MPA and given to NIWA.
But talking about that, they've also argued that, search and rescue operations have been very, very daunting for Nigeria, or Nigerians generally, so that if we have this, Coast Guard, it will be easier for people to conduct search and rescue operations rather than, having to lose people, when we can save them within shortest time. What do you think?
Well, people who are talking about search and rescue don't know the technical aspects of search and rescue. Search and rescue in what sense? How many Nigeria shipping traffic is one of the lowest in the world, for instance? We are talking of search and rescue. You want to talk about a vessel in distress. A vessel in distress is that one that probably has lost engine power and lost total control and thereby is drifting away and is able to call SOS, Syria, Oscar Syria, on his communication gadgets. And that's a global requirement. And anybody that is able to search, to rescue that vessel, have a right to send the bill to the principals of that vessel for us to pay for. How many people do you want to go and search for at sea that will necessitate creating an entire Coast Guard? And in terms of technical operation of searches, let me tell you, let me just hypothetically give you an example. Something happens 50 nautical miles from our coast, and a vessel that proceeds at the speed of 10 knots, it will take that vessel 5 hours to even get to that general location where the search will begin. And of course, it might take days for you to achieve that aim. How many times, maybe the helicopter crash that happened recently had happened. And of course, we have agencies like NEMA, and the states have SEMA. These are civilian organizations that have also been set up to enhance search and rescue operations under every circumstance. And all of them have naval elements, air elements, elements of land forces enshrined within them. So I do not know what they are saying about search and rescue. Do you want to be searching and rescuing people every day? But in countries like European countries that are in proximity, contesting for very limited spaces, where a lot of business is being done in the ocean, where there are high risk of collision, grounding, and other things, fire and all these things, yeah, you can say yes. And it's not every country that owns a coast guard. Very few countries own coast guard. Like I said, navies are set up according to the threat profile. And we must be careful. Countries are now invading other countries because they have military capacity to do so. And Russia, Ukraine is one typical example. Are we saying that, look, one day some countries might just eye our coastal areas and decide to take up one or two states that are lucrative and begin to cite some colonial laws that will help them to reclaim those territories? So where do we stand? Where would the Coast Guard be? The Navy cannot exist in the open sea and be there forever because we don't even have such platforms that can stay the sea, that have endurance to keep the sea. And when they need maintenance, where do they go to? They have to go to the dockyard. And Nigerian Navy has a dockyard. What you need to be thinking about is how to enhance the capacity. It has a dockyard in Port Harcourt. It has a dockyard in Lagos. Where,
so if you are bringing in that argument, Commodore Ayuba, if you are bringing in that argument, the bill actually suggests, in that regard, talking about aligning with the global norm, or global norms and practices. So if you're looking at are we not looking at whether this bill will enhance Nigeria's reputation in leadership, representation in terms of leadership in regional maritime security, especially in collaborations with the like of the Gulf of Guinea initiative? Do you not see it that way? If you're saying that, okay, because of these, other countries are encroaching, neighboring countries, because of their might and all of that, do you not see this helping Nigeria to, driving Nigeria to that level if we have Coast Guard?
It is not the Coast Guard that will solve those problems. Problems of poaching, illegal fishing, problems of illegal mining, all these have always existed in the maritime environment. What we need to do is to show presence at all times and be vigilant. When you are vigilant, then you are able to enforce your regulations. If you want to create a unit now, for instance, the Nigerian Navy has played a very, very important role in making a lot of seizures, arrests, but the Nigerian Navy does not have prosecuting powers. So you see the Navy take so much effort, burning so much fuel to go and make arrests. In the end, they are to hand over to either EFCC, civil defense, police for prosecution. More or less, those agencies don't have holding facilities. They will still keep the vessels in Navy custody, occupying the jetties, and some of these vessels, because they are not very healthy, over a period of time, because of the duration of cases that in court, they will get taking water and sink, and thereby impeding safe navigation. So what we need to do is for us to call a stakeholders conference where we all go back to the drawing board and talk about the issues. What I know is that the Nigerian Navy has been severely shortchanged, and I believe there are people who are appointed to do their day job to argue these things. But for us who are veterans and who are still in date to understand the dynamics of the maritime environment. The maritime environment is vast, No Coast Guard can do it. So we require